And we're on.
Hi, my name is Cindy, and I'm located in Calgary. My company name is Explore EFT.
Yes, and I'm Corby from Radiant Core Solutions. And today we have a very special guest with us, Kathy Pavlik. And do you want to kind of introduce yourself? Because I don't think I can do it justice to all the beautiful things that you've got going right now.
Hi, Corby. Hi, Cindy. Thanks for having me today. I'm Kathy Pavlik, and I am in Port Perry, Ontario. I started out as an educator in the public school system, teaching French immersion and music. I'm now doing coaching for academic skills, so tutoring, as well as with musicians to help them reach peak performance. I'm a graduate student at York University, so I'm doing a PhD right now where I'm looking at kind of strategies and solutions around performance anxiety.
Ooh. And one thing that's really, really cool is that in that study, tell us what you're doing with that for the performance anxiety.
Right. So what my goal is to situate EFT tapping among all of the current strategies that are being used to help resolve and cope with performance anxiety in singers. So I'm trying to establish that tapping is a super effective strategy to help calm singers both backstage, on stage, and during the preparation, as well as the post thoughts of performance.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. And how have you found that in yourself? Because I know you had a big concert just before, was it just before Christmas that you were the star of?
So part of my program has been to kind of put myself to the test. And I've always felt that I love to sing, I love music, but there's been this little piece of worry that I've carried with me on my shoulder in performance. Mostly it comes down to fear of judgment and worry that I'm not going to do it perfectly.
Right.
So one of the things that's been really helpful is to establish a practice routine and a backstage routine that helps to address some of those things so that I'm not carrying that with me and it doesn't come in between me and the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how effective have you found that to be now when you went? Yeah,
it's a total game changer.
Yeah,
for sure. It's just so much more authentic, and joyful in performance. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? We want to do it because we love it, not because it's a horrible struggle, right? So it's just, but it is often for many performers, there's this conflict because we love the music so much and we feel compelled to perform, but it's terrifying at the same time. So there's this constant struggle. So I have found that adding tapping into my process of practice, preparation, and performance has really quieted that struggle and allowed me to be just more flow and more authentic.
Nice.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, have you even noticed with being in that calm space, that the sound quality in that comes across even, as you said, more authentic?
For sure, because any of the emotions that we're experiencing on the inside are going to show up somewhere in our body. Sometimes that's throat tension, it's headaches, it's shoulder tension. Your breathing becomes dysregulated. So anything we can do to calm the emotions and the fight or flight response is inevitably going to have a physiological impact on the quality of our voice, even just something as simple as posture.
Yeah, I better sit up.
No pressure.
No pressure.
All righty then.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this tool. It's kind of like because we are all these fear-based beings and we have the same physiology, biology within us. It doesn't matter what area of our life we take it in. It's just so effective.
Yeah. I think it's also been really helpful in as musicians and singers in particular, we develop certain patterns, in a phrase, for example, we're heading up to that high F and our brain plays this game and says, this note's really high. you should be worried that you're not going to hit this note properly. So EFT is a really effective way to interrupt those limiting beliefs and thought patterns so that you can actually access all the skills you already have, your ruby slippers of technique. You can access all the brilliance that you have without those thoughts, those, brain worms or earworms getting in the way of what you can actually do.
Yeah, so I know with your students and that, how have they been receptive to all this?
Well, it varies. A lot of the things that I use are kind of behind the scenes. So I'll use a lot of surrogate tapping with my students, focusing on issues that they are displaying or that they have communicated to me are important. Then I will surrogate tap on those issues as we're in process and in lesson. That seems to work really well with the younger students.
And I'm just thinking, a lot of people won't know what surrogate tapping means.
Right. So that means that I am doing the tapping, but focusing on the issue that the student has brought, or focusing on the emotion that they're experiencing in that moment. So, for example, around sight reading, I had a student say to me, "I hate sight reading and I suck at sight reading." So, and that's common, right? But where does that come from? Is that a skill-based thing, or is that a limiting belief, or is it both? Right? So an example of surrogate tapping would be me doing my finger squeeze tapping while the student is talking through their process and just being really honest about what it's like to be them. And that helps to shift things.
Yeah, that's right. And for those that don't know, like we have meridians that run along our hands so that we can actually, instead of doing tapping, we can actually use them on our finger points. So, which is great. So, and why surrogate tapping works is because everything's energy. So we are all connected, so, and there's science behind that, and we forget that, so that we are powerful to be able to help each other.
Yeah, it's amazing how there is the science behind it, because it's like, it just seems so bizarre and woo-woo, but there are scientists and researchers that have these tools that are able to measure what we're talking about.
Yeah, the results. Yeah. And I'm excited to see where you're going to take this, Kathy, because, now you're taking it into this other genre where so many people can, use it, and just imagine the next level that they can take it when they're doing their performances.
Yeah.
We'll just get Adele in here.
Yeah.
Well, that's another tax bracket.
It'd be worth exploring, though.
So what are the age groups that you normally work with?
It's all singers across all ages.
Okay.
But my process is very different with young kids than it would be with, semi-professional people.
Yeah.
Certainly. But I'm glad, Corby, that you mentioned the finger tapping and how that relates to the process of meridians, because that in itself is such a powerful technique to use backstage, for example, to use even in performance at those moments where you just bring the phrase right up there, give a couple squeezes and release. There's all these great strategies that are, even though, sometimes people think tapping might be a little bit woo-woo, as you mentioned, Cindy. There are much more subtle ways that you can engage in tapping that you might feel less self-conscious about in a public place or even in performance.
Well, we're actually doing that intuitively. It wasn't until I had started the process of learning about tapping and recognizing that when I sat there like, that I was actually stimulating a point.
Right.
So my body knew what it needed, and then when I got that connection, it's like, so we're doing it. So now with us having this knowledge, we want to impart it on as many people so that they recognize that, well, look at that, I'm doing it already.
Yeah, and there's just so many areas of our lives that can be enhanced by using this tool, and like you say, you can do it anywhere. Nobody's going to know that you're even doing it. It doesn't have to be the full-blown tapping around the body, so that's great.
But when I was teaching in the classroom as well, a big application of tapping for me was on overwhelm, dealing with all the demands of the curriculum, the expectations of the administration, maybe behavior concerns with students. So I would often just, during my prep, just sit and do a few rounds of tapping to clear that and calm that stress response and that overwhelm, so that I can bring my very best self possible to those students, right? And I think when teachers are equipped with the tools to interrupt their own stress response, they're then not causing a domino effect, passing that stress onto their students, and it changes the classroom dynamic enormously.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, that's so true, because this would be like, say, with teachers, I mean, especially because you are in, with so many people all the time, that, you want to guard that energy and make sure that it's safe for everybody, yourself especially, and then everybody else going around. Yeah. That's beautiful when you can bring that kind of energy, because think of the creativity that can happen, when everybody's in that calm place.
Yeah, I wish that I'd have known about this when I was in school, because one of the things that I learned about myself was a big anxiety I had started in grade 1. And it carried through my entire educational career, no matter what I did. And I couldn't figure out, like, why am I so jittery about this? And then I found it in a tapping session, and it was like, oh wow. So, and knowing that, I was like, how many other people and children, probably 100%, have this going on.
Some form, exactly, because
some form of it.
We form all our beliefs at a very young age. So yes, that's right. If we get it, especially into teachers' hands, into parents' hands, and start the children off learning that, there is a different way of being, and that they don't need to start forming beliefs that are detrimental to them, that they can change them and know that they are enough, and that, that they can go forward from there, rather than getting to where we're at in our, I'm glad we found it, and know that we are enough, and that we can love ourselves, and we don't have to be overwhelmed, and can move on from there.
Yes, exactly.
Sure. We talk all about resiliency and emotional regulation and self-advocacy in our education system. Well, what a great tool to be able to empower youth to take that on themselves.
Yeah. Well, and the big push for mental health, and everybody thinks mental health, you have to be, a psychologist, psychiatrist, social worker, fully trained. It's like, no, we have the power ourselves to bring in self-regulation. And then there are the more difficult cases that could go to the individuals that have got the higher training. But right now, for everybody getting into that foundational space, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandma, grandpa, anybody, that they recognize that somebody in the family is struggling with something, instead of just doing platitudes, let's just do a little bit of tapping around that. Let's get your nervous system regulated. Let's get you into a calm space, so we can really talk about what the true issue is. So that's why I think it's so beautiful having the three of us in all these different parts of the world, parts of Canada, and then from different backgrounds, to be able to bring this forward. It's pretty powerful. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah. So any last parting words that you want to share, Kathy?
Just keep singing. Just keep singing.
Just keep singing, exactly. Yeah, let it flow, hey, and with ease and grace.
Let it flow, let it flow.
Well, we sure appreciate having you on here and hearing about all the great things that you're doing. And I know your students are just going to excel beyond what they could even have imagined for themselves.
Well, it's lovely. And I so appreciate what both of you are doing. Such amazing things in the world. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. All right. Thank you. And we'll catch you on another episode when we talk to another practitioner also. So thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Cindy. Bye.
Bye, girls.